So we're talking today about quantum physics, the quantum science, string theory, dark matter, and non-locality. Now, when I read that, it's quite scary because I am not a scientist. And we could go through the explanations of Einstein and his theory of relativity and all these different scientists and physicists who have studied this in depth. However, I'm just going to give you the very basics of for you to understand what the words mean, because they're quite big words. And unless you research them obsessively like I do, it's difficult to really understand necessarily what they are. So quantum mechanics on a basic level is the detail. It's like the zoomed in version of quantum physics. And it's basically looking at the protons and the electrons and the atoms. And, so we could do a whole workshop on protons, electrons, and how that, and the atoms and how that sits within our bodies. But that's not what we're covering today. Now, the special theory of relativity was Albert Einstein's principles of relativity. And that basically focuses on space and time. Basically, it is time linear or not? And again, we could do a whole presentation on that, but I'm going to try and kind of weave it all together into one. The field theory is basically the relationship between matter and the field. So if you consider how the spooky action happens in the world with spirits and things that are unexplainable, that's sort of what the field theory is. Now, dark matter is, I find that fascinating. And obviously, all this is being researched scientifically at the moment.
Hey, you right? No.
I don't know who that is, but could we turn the speaker? That's it. So dark matter, I find it really fascinating because we're still finding out, scientists are still looking into what dark matter is, but they have only observed it because of the interaction that it has with the stars and the galaxies. So it's the in-between, what they call the in-between. And the way that I look at it in relation to the human body is fascia. I consider the connective tissue of the human body, which is a crystalline tissue, a fluid crystalline tissue, as dark matter. The crystalline tissue of fascia is what interacts with all the systems of the human body. And I believe dark matter is the same. It's what interacts fully with the galaxy. Basically, it's what holds everything together. Now, this presentation, as I say, I'm not a scientist, so this is about me and my experience with the quantum field. Everyone has a different experience, but from my perspective, how I view it when I'm working with patients and how I view it through my mind's eye, through my autistic and psychic eye. So I use these two images. I'm going to see whether this works. It's very exciting. I've never used Canva, so it's nice to see a video. Okay, so I want you to visualize the galaxy, but then bring it in a little bit and think about our planet. And we're going to be zooming in and zooming out. So when you look at our planet, we have the layers of the sea and we have the layers of the sky. It's not just one flat depth. It's not just one flat layer. There are many, many thousands of layers. So if you're looking at the sea, you have the atmospheric pressure, the depth pressure, and you also have vibration because all the animals that are in it give vibration within it. And it's the same with the sky. If you look at clouds, you have the different densities of clouds, the different layers of that space. Now, if you were to join the two and then interact with what's in our planet, we are literally a selection of layers within time and space. And you can then zoom in even further and look at the human body and look at the layers of the human body that are from cardiovascular to the lymphatic system to the fascial system to the cerebral spinal fluid. So we are literally living in a world of layers. Now, what's very interesting with the facts of the quantum is that the wave and particle duality. So basically, when you look at electrons and protons and photons, they behave as particles and waves. They do both. Okay, so it's the same as our body. You can look at a cell, or you can zoom out and it's skin, or you can look at a cell of a liver and then you can zoom out and it's a liver. The difference is that with the quantum and these particles, there are different stages. So just like water, that we have ice, we have liquid, fluid, we have gaseous, which is steam state, and we have plasma. And all these states are ever evolving, ever changing. If you look at the sky and you look at the sea, it's continuously evolving and changing. Now, what's very interesting from a psychic point of view or from a healer's point of view is that just like the quantum, the particles can be in multiple states as at once. So that means they can be liquid, steam, and plasma, equivalent of, all at once. And what changes is once you look at it. And that applies to, for example, from my experience as a cranial sacral therapist, when you are looking at that particular space in the human body, then that particular space can change the consistency of the cells. Now, that's in a human body. If you're then connecting to the quantum as a distant healer, or a psychic, or somebody who speaks to animals, you are looking in and trying to find the layers and the different textures, depths and quality, the sensation or the density of those layers. And that's what makes the change. That's how you know that there's a resonance in and a vibration in that time and space. So if you're connecting to, let's say, a human being, or you're trying to do telepathy, or you're trying to connect to an animal from a distance, what you're feeling or what you're looking for is a sensation, is a quality or a density. Everyone experiences psychic abilities to an extent, and it's just literally like going to the gym. It's just working it out and learning to feel those depths, learning to feel that sensation. Sort of, how does it feel in your body or in your mind's eye, to understand where it is and how it interacts with you. Now, string theory is really fascinating because all these theories, they're seen independently, just like the human body, which is wrong. It needs to be seen together. When we go to the doctors, they look at, if you have a cardiovascular issue, they're just going to look at your heart necessarily. They're not going to look at the whole system. And it's important to look at the entire system holistically to see how we heal. Now, if you apply the same theory to the quantum, string theory, in my opinion, is real. It works. Gabriele Veneziano was the originator of the theory. But what's interesting is that has been found is that, sort of the strings are vibrating strings of atoms, of particles. Now, let me slow down for a second, because I get very excited because I can see it. And I just want you guys to really understand what this concept is. So I want you to first visualize the sky or the sea. And then I want you to visualize the lines within it. And those lines within it are the strings of string theory. Now, I want you to, some of you may have conceptualized this already, but if you look at the string theory, don't just look at it in atom and particle form. Look at it basically as a map of everything, a map of life, a map of the world, a map of geometry, a map of everything. So there are many, many more, but I've itemized just a few layers that you can see here. So energy lines in humans and animals, that's basically the meridians, the Chinese meridians. They map your human body and the energy lines that flow through it. And the main lines that come out of the chakras are the meridians. Then you have the energetics of past, present, and future. What I mean by that is when, let's say today, you've walked through the whole day doing different things. Every time you have passed certain areas, you have left fingerprints. And those fingerprints are not just literal fingerprints, but they're also your atoms. And they've been left like fingerprints or path of footprints throughout time and space. And those footprints leave resonances and vibrations. So that's how, for example, when you enter a house, you know the vibration of the house. And it could be because of the resonance that's been left behind by the people living there. Now, electronic lines like Wi-Fi, phone cables, computers, all of those exist around our world. And then if you expand out a little bit, you think of all the satellites. Those leave lines not only electronically, but also within the field, within the space. Just like a boat or plane leaves the trails throughout the water or throughout the air, so do all the other things leave trails. If you think of birds or insects or even animals that walk the earth, they are leaving trails, they're leaving footprints or air prints if they're birds. Now, if you see the map at the top with all the red lines, those are called ley lines. And ley lines are spiritual lines. They've been researched for years, and they basically follow the energetic lines of, let's say, the Egyptian pyramids, but they also are related to water, interestingly. And the ley lines in the spiritual world are known sort of like the subway or the metro of the spirit world. So souls or spirits can basically jump on them and end in one place or another. And that's how we can travel through time and space, through connecting to a line. It could be a ley line or it could be any other line that you feel that you can connect to. Now, the Akashic records, I'm sure you all know what they are. They are sitting in a web around our world and within our universe. Now, if you go deeper into the earth, you have mycelia, you have roots that all communicate and connect with each other. So all of these lines create connections and create connections within humanity and within the energetic field that we live in. So we're going to talk about entanglement a little bit today. And entanglement is literally the entanglement of those lines. So if you look at this image, you have the stars, you have the galaxies, you have the dark matter. So I want you to visualize your world is the same. And when you connect to the world, you are the equivalent of a planet or a star, and you are interacting with the space and time within it. Remember, time is not linear. There's a continuum. So you can jump from layer to layer. You don't just have to stay on one. Now, the idea of entanglement, I'm sure many of you have had experiences with entanglement. My experience, or one of the biggest experiences, well, first I have the experience of working every day. I run my clinic every day and I connect through the field to my patients, and I connect to where they're at, their body, their energetic field, their ancestral field, their energy lines. So that's one way of looking at the entanglement. But I'm just going to share this because I'm just going to stop sharing for 1 second. And one of the things when it comes to entanglement, and the biggest, for me, biggest experience was when my mother passed away. So my mother passed away in 2018. And in 2004, very long story, we don't need to go into it, but she was shot to point blank range in her ankle while demonstrating in Venezuela. And she had a massive operation, she healed. And from 2004 to her passing, I had always worked on her. She was a very fit woman. She did yoga. She really looked after the fascia, the connective tissue that holds all our emotions. And when she passed away, I didn't know she had passed away. She had been hit by a car on her bicycle. And I was at home with my two young children at 4:45 in the afternoon. And my son looks at my ankle, my left ankle, and my ankle had exploded with a load of veins. And there was no pain, but it was very shocking to look at. And my son was like, Mummy, are you okay? He was 7, 8 years old at the time. And I just, blasé said, yeah, that's fine. I don't know what it is. I must have hurt my foot. And then at 9 o'clock, I find out my mother had passed. And I asked the police officer out of interest, when was she hit? And they said 4:45 in the afternoon. So that is a very clear example of entanglement. And I'm sure that many of you have had entanglements, maybe not as shocking as that, but it's that moment of when you think of somebody and you need to phone them, and then you pick up the phone and they say, oh, I was just thinking about you. That's a form of entanglement. So we're continuously being entangled within our world with people. And it's really important to be aware of those hooks and that entanglement, because sometimes those entanglements are not healthy. But anyway, we're going to go back to the presentation. Bear with me. Okay, so entanglements are what I consider fulcrums or knots in the time and space or in the field. And those knots, or it's easier to call them fulcrums, a fulcrum is basically, it looks like a tornado. Okay. It doesn't necessarily feel as aggressive as a tornado, but it just pulls, it really pulls down where it locates and then pulls up. So a fulcrum, okay, this is too much for me. Sorry, I need to turn that off. Can be people's emotions. It could be a memory. So every time you think of something, it takes you back to that time and space. That creates a fulcrum. Smells or scent, when you smell a particular perfume and it reminds you of something or someone, that's a fulcrum. Attachments and objects, objects have fulcrums because we connect our emotions to those objects. And emotions, you need to look at them ironically, without the sense of emotion, but with the sense of a chemical reaction that connects through the vibrational field of time and space within the quantum field. I hope that makes sense. So when you have an emotion, you vibrate, and those vibrations connect to the object, the person, the animal, the thing, whatever it may be. And those are internal fulcrums usually. So the external fulcrums are places, homes, memories, people, events. All of those are specific fulcrums. And I'm talking about fulcrums for human beings, particularly animals. Obviously, there's other types of fulcrums. There's fulcrums when it comes to the galaxy and how the planets interact with each other, how the sun shoots energy out. So all of those are different fulcrums, just like just like the layers that we've been talking about. Now, if I just play this for 1 second, it's very interactive for my brain. That not only makes me think of the galaxy and how it's moving, because one of the things that we tend to forget, one of the things we tend to forget about the galaxy, in the same way as we forget about life, we look at life on a very 2D level. And in reality, life is more than 3D. Okay, life is 50. And this is a lovely example that you have the little dots that show the different fulcrums. You have threads and the time and space, and then you have the darkness, which is the dark matter sitting within it. So if I showed that to an anatomist, they immediately would say that's fascia. If I showed that to a scientist, they would say that that's the galaxy. So I just love how they all mirror each other. So one of the things that's very important when working in the field of the quantum consciously is to be grounded. Now, if we're not grounded, let's say you are a body worker, a practitioner, a psychic, an intuitive, or you're just starting your intuitive journey and you're doing it consciously because you really, really want to connect. but you're not doing the consciousness of being grounded. Then what happens is that you entangle with it and you end up looking a little bit like that picture. You end up being a little bit confused, overwhelmed, and not, well, I love the word discombobulated. You end up discombobulated. So one of the things that show when you have had a negative entanglement, or you haven't grounded enough and cleared your own energy, is burnout, exhaustion, illness, mood swings, sensations over the eyes. I suffer from the sensation over the eyes a lot. Headaches, sensations around your head, tinnitus. However, with tinnitus, don't confuse that, because that can also be when I connect psychically to people or the field, my tinnitus kicks in. I don't suffer from tinnitus. It just happens when I'm connected. So you need to be aware of whether the hearing issue when it happens in the system. Now, the way I describe the entanglement, a negative entanglement, is being slimed, just like you do with Ghostbusters. I envision the quantum field just smacking me one, just like this dude over here. And when I feel that I have been slimed, it literally feels like cling film. It feels like somebody's put cling film over my eyes. I can see through it, but it just doesn't feel right. And if it's really bad, it feels like my head is like in a cotton wool. Now, it's important for people to understand that being slimed isn't, I mean, it's not great, but you shouldn't fear it, because your system is meant to interact with the field. Your system is meant to interact and communicate with each other on this level. We were born to do this. We have been doing this since we were born, and we just forgot. But it's really important to be aware, in the same way as we shower every day, that we ground and we disconnect and we clear. The grounding and disconnection is really important. And the clearing doesn't have to be very complicated. Okay. I know that many people, I certainly did. I used to complicate my life and spend about 20 minutes clearing the room and using shamanic drums and just going a bit mental, but we don't need to go that far. One of the things that you do have to remember is that you are a sovereign being and you are connected to source. You are connected to the divine, whatever that divine is for you. It can be Gaia, it could be the universe, it could be God, it could be Allah, it could be whatever you want it to be. However, you are connected to that. So when you connect to the person, the animal, when you are about to embark in this, one of the things that is important to say is that you are connecting to that person through source, and that nothing can get in, and that everything there is for your highest good, for their highest good, and for the collective's highest good. And that anything that does not serve that needs to disconnect from you immediately. Now, I can go through this in a minute, but basically these are very simple ways to clear and protect your system, but we can discuss that in a minute. Thank you for listening to me. Now, has anyone got any questions?
Go ahead, Courtney.
Hi guys, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Hi, Courtney.
Hi, thank you so much for that. That was amazing. And I'm sorry I'm buzzing around here, but I was at the UPS doing the grounding and it was lovely. But I wanted to ask, we talked about the entanglement. And I know that there was a question that I kind of answered, but and that entanglements can be both good and bad. And I know that I experienced one with a client who had a gunshot wound. And when I put my hands on the entry and the exit points, and it had happened when he was 30 and he was in his 60s, I could feel the fire like ripping, like the bullet ripping through him. And I got very sweaty, and I asked him if he was okay. And he said he felt a cooling sensation. So he was feeling the opposite sensation of what had happened to him, kind of like undoing or healing, the heat of that bullet. But I wanted to ask, once you are entangled with somebody, and that was kind of negative, but kind of not, it was a healing moment. What would you suggest to come away from that, to disengage, I don't think you want to unground, but what would you suggest for being able to clear out of that?
That's a really good question. Used to suffer from that. I still do to an extent, but now I know what to do with it. I used to suffer from that, and then it would stay with me for the rest of the day. And then if you're seeing five or more patients, then your whole body's bombarded. So one of the things that I now do is, number one, I really sit with my own fulcrum. So that rooting. So when you're, for example, when you're holding on to his wound and you're feeling that heat, really concentrate not on that heat, but on your spine and your tailbone hankering down. Okay. That's one. And two, I work with breath because I think, okay, well, if the quantum is vibrational space, then breath can create vibration. So when I'm holding on and I'm feeling whatever I'm feeling from that patient, I then take a really deep breath and blow it out of me and out of them.
Okay. So that makes me think of ripples in a water. And there was a ripple created by me touching those points, and then I could create another ripple to kind of get it to move differently. Okay.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
But one of the things that's really important with entanglement when working with patients, and this is something that I learned the hard way, is you have to not get in. What I mean by that is when you can visualize, sense, feel what it is, whatever ability, because we all have different abilities. Don't get in and say, well, I need to clear this. Because it's not your responsibility to clear it. It is theirs. So it's really important that you say that not to them necessarily verbally, but you can say that in your head to the quantum.
I think I did hold on to him for longer than our appointment session, right? Which is, I hate to have to let go and to say time is up, but sometimes I do because I have a waiting appointment. But yeah, I did kind of, and I really just kept thinking of myself as a vessel, so that it would flow through me and not get stuck in me. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. So it's a question of hankering down and just saying to source, okay, it's up to you. It's down to you, whatever you want to do with this.
okay,
But
perfect. I
it's
love.
but don't get in, because getting in is what makes us sick.
Thank you so much. Great job.
Thank you. Suzanne?
Wow, that was so informative. It was beautiful. So my fascia was so hard and tightened up. Was that uh experience in entanglement, or was I having a fulcrum inside? I mean, like, a little confused.
Well, fascia, you have to remember that there's two factors to fascia. Okay, fascia does get tight if you have issues with the lymphatic system, if you have issues with breath. Fascia moves with breath. And fascia is where we hold all our emotions. Okay, it's literally it's the vessel of our soul. So if we're working through a lot, the fascia could be very tight. Now,
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense now. So that's why the breathing so helped me. Yes.
so with that, you can, sort of do movement therapy, breath, all that kind of stuff that can help.
Okay. Thanks.
Annie?
Wonderful. Thank you. So the energy work that I do on animals was not something that I sought out. It was a ability that pretty much spontaneously came to me at a moment of desperation. And all this is quite new to me. And I'm still trying to figure things out, I guess, is what I'm prefacing. My biggest question is, what is it? I go through connecting with them. I go through grounding, connecting with them. And as I'm connecting, and this is all remote, well, not all, but it happens in person too. And the reason I don't do it in person is I start yawning and tearing copious amounts. And for somebody to watch it, they get scared for me. And I'm fine with it. It's a release that I feel. But is that what's going on? I don't know.
That is exactly. I have a very close friend who is an energy worker and she channels. And every time she starts channeling, she's yawning like mad. And that's literally her system breathing through it or releasing whatever the energy is that's going through. I think we've lost her, didn't we?
I'm still here.
Oh, you're still here. Sorry, you moved from my screen.
That is so cool.
So yeah, that's the yawning is something that's really common. And if you just warn people when you start working that's your release mechanism.
It's the yawning, it's the tears. My nose runs copious amounts. I mean, I need a paper towel to keep wiping my face down. And it does depend on the animal. Sometimes it happens before I even connect, and it just will hit me and boom. And I'm not understanding that relationship. Is that it's mostly dogs kind of desperate for this or in need of this, or
It sounds like you're doing an amazing job.
thank you.
You know, it sounds that it's exactly what you're meant to be doing. You just need to find a way to release. And I'm sensing that you're not, when I connect to that from here, you're anchoring through your feet, but you're not anchoring your center.
Like my tailbone?
Yeah.
Or what? Okay.
So I wonder whether when you're trying to root, whether you're rooting just your feet, but not your body.
That's probably well within possibilities, yes.
I think it's really important for you to try and start rooting
Okay.
with your entire root chakra.
I will do that.
Yeah. And then let me know how you get on with that. But that's one of the things that if you're not rooted, then it's like a boat at sea. It just sways too much. So it could be that your energy is too powerful and you haven't actually found a way to release it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's been a 10-year process, and I'm just still trying to figure it out.
Amazing. And we're all still trying to figure it out. You know, I've been a body worker for 20 years and I'm still learning, you know, sort of the routine, the grounding, the breath work that I do now. I've only, you know, especially the breath work, breathing into the back of your heart. I've only been doing that since probably about 8 years ago. And that just came by just trial and error. So just try it, you know, try and see what works. I remember working with an energy worker and he would bounce his foot, his ankle, when he used to work. And I looked at him and said, why are you doing that? And he goes, I send the energy down. Now, I tried to do that myself. That didn't work for me, but it might work for you. So it's a question of seeing, okay, well, where is the energy in me? It's really important that you understand your system within the time and space that you're working. If you're only connecting through the third eye, then you're not really going to understand what's going on with you. Does that make sense?
I don't understand any of it.
Okay.
Yeah,
So maybe you and I need to have a chat afterwards and see how we can try and guide you here.
that'd be great. Thank you.
No worries. Perfect, Jenny. Liz.
So we have a question first on the chat from Victoria. She says, how about when there's entanglement with a family member? What can you do about that?
That's a very difficult one. I'm assuming that it's a negative entanglement when you're talking about an entanglement with a family member. If you have a relationship with a person and you still have a contact with a person, you have to find your in between. You have to find the space so that it doesn't sway you. So I need you to visualize yourself as spinning plates in a room. You know, we're all spinning plates in our life, wandering around. And when you attach yourself to somebody else's spinning plate, it's going to send you off kilter if their spinning plate is not spinning at the same rotational vortex as you. With family entanglements, you can do cord cutting, which is a type of energy cutting that you can do, but that's if you don't want a relationship with that person anymore. If you're still having that relationship, I would say really ground before you see them and focus on the breath. Because when you focus on the breath, especially the breath in the back of the heart, I have noticed that when we breathe into the back of the heart, we create literally a gap. We sit in the in between and we create space between the quantum. So by creating space within the quantum, it means that you don't become reactionary. It means that their energy does not attack yours. When you're like this, their energy is very connected to you. Whereas focusing on the back of your heart, if you just now literally just sit comfortably and take 4 breaths into the back of your heart. Your whole cellular makeup sends backwards. You know, we live our life in very much the now, and all our atoms are forwards of our system. Whereas if we breathe, we bring the atoms into alignment with our central nervous system and our spine. And then if you focus your intention on the back of your heart, then you're literally moving the protons behind you. And that creates that field between you and that person. I hope that helps, Victoria.
Go ahead.
Thank you. That was lovely, Margarita. It's really lovely to hear more about grounding. It's one of those concepts and words that people talk about all the time, and they just kind of throw the word around. And yeah, sometimes it's, however long we've been in practice, it's really important just to kind of stop and work out if it still has meaning for us, and update our connection with it and our meaning. So I really appreciated that. Thank you. I was kind of curious about this whole thing about working face to face versus working online. I do both. I'm a somatic experiencing practitioner online, and then a Rolfer and SE practitioner face to face. I find that when I'm in the room with my client, it's much easier to get a sense of everything that you're talking about. If the client is trying to attach, or just kind of what's happening with the two fields in the room. I'm curious about it when we're working online. I think that there's a part of my brain that just thinks, well, they can't attach because I'm in another part of the country, in my little garden shed, on my laptop. But I really noticed it today, actually. I had a client this morning, and I've worked with them for quite a few years, and we talk about it in the session. I can feel when they're coming through the screen, almost trying to attach. So we kind of talk about it, we play with it. We were working with some quite complex material today, so I feel like I wasn't so aware of it. I lost my awareness. And then when the session finished, I just felt really like a bit pissed off, and just like I could feel there was kind of a bit of gunk. I was carrying something. I was lucky enough to be able to go for a walk, so it kind of cleared it, but it just kind of got me thinking about whether we're still doing the same kind of technique that you've just talked us through when we're working online, or whether there's anything else that kind of needs to come into the mix as well.
Well, from my experience, when I started doing distant healing, I remember in the course that I attended, I really struggled at the beginning to connect the person, to send my intention all the way to where they were. I would, because of my sensitivity, I would feel really scattered. And I think that would happen to a lot of people, that they feel so scattered that it's very difficult to hold the space because it's just so vast. And one of the tutors said, well, why don't you invite them into your space? And I started doing that. And wow, what a difference. Literally, if you sort of as you begin the session, and I guess this could be, Annie, this could be for you too, or anybody who's trying to connect, whether telepathically or whether, sort of energetically with somebody, invite them into your space. pull their atoms into your space. So you're literally saying, and you verbalize it out loud, I am inviting you to enter my space.
But not my body.
Not your body. No, it's literally your space. And then you connect to it with your senses. And that's practice. The more you connect, the more you'll notice and you'll start seeing and sensing different things. And then at the end of that session, in the same way that they came in, you say to them, okay, you need to call your atoms back. And you say to them, take 3 breaths and pull your atoms back.
You would actually say that out loud to them.
Yep.
Yeah, I quite like that.
Yeah. So basically, as they're breathing in, they are bringing in their energy back in. And in reality, if you do that as a grounding exercise for you at the end of the day, it's a great way to kind of, because we in the same way as the presentation showed, we spread ourselves out. We leave fingerprints, but those fingerprints are atom prints, and we spread them out everywhere. So if every night you can call them back in and feel yourself centered, you'll feel a lot better.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Does that make sense to everybody? Now, is there any other questions? Anything else that you'd like to share, or don't be shy? Yes. Well, thanks, Suzanne. So lastly, I want to just explain about clearing, because clearing, in my opinion, is quite important. A lot of people, as I used to, make a huge fuss. They use Palo Santo, they use white sage, and then they use holy water and da 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 da. In extreme cases, that's really helpful. Okay, but you don't have to do it every single day. So if you can ground, and at the end of your sessions, at the end of every single session, and I mean every single one, you finish by sending that cocoon round again. And you say, I'm not here to heal you. You have to do this yourself. And I disconnect from your cords and bring mine in. So that basically, you're just cutting everything up. And then you take another breath and you ground a little bit more. Showering afterwards is really important. So not after every patient, but at the end of the day, it's quite a good thing to do. But you visualize yourself, sort of not only the water going over you, but going through you. When you feel your room, because, I deal with cancer patients, I deal with death, I deal with a lot of childhood trauma. Sometimes the room feels really stuffy after a session. So opening the windows, sound is brilliant. So if you have a sound bowl, just, in every corner of the room, just smack that sound bowl. And if you don't have anything, just clap, literally all around the room. If you're feeling, sort of that you have absorbed something at the end of the session, and you need to do something quickly because you're going to have somebody coming in 15 minutes. So there's no time to do the sound thing and, the shower. Just do that all around your body. And that breaks up whatever's there. It's kind of like when you're stirring the soup, it just breaks everything up a little bit and changes the consistency of the atoms of the space. So those are, for me, I mean, I'm only giving you my experience, okay? So other people might have amazing, simpler ways, but these are the things that I have used in my clinic, and they have worked. Before learning to ground and before learning to not get into people's systems, because I can see everything, it was very much like, oh my God, I can do this and this and this. And that was making me sick. So now it's very much you have to take a step back and allow that person to heal in the time that they need. You're not responsible for their healing. And that's really important to learn when it comes to body workers and healers. If I know that some here are from the telepathy tapes and they're trying to connect telepathically to their children. You can't force it. You have to hold the space and welcome that in. The more you search for it, the less you're going to be able to connect because you're hyper focusing into a space. And they live so many different layers that it's very difficult for them or very difficult for you to know which layer they're in. So you just have to sit in the heart space and allow that to come in without you saying, well, I need to do this, or I need to hear this, or I need to heal this, or, whatever it may be. Does that make sense to everybody?
So my question would be, how would people, what are some of the ways that people can work with you?
Gosh, there's lots of different ways people can work with me. Oh, thank you for that. That's very efficient, Kevin. You're more than welcome to connect through one-to-one. It depends on what you're coming to work with me for. If it's, for example, if you are a mum or a dad that wants to connect to their child telepathically, I'm not going to be able to do that connection because I'm not telepathic. There are plenty of people that do that in the telepathy tapes. However, what I can do is teach you how to feel the field and how to interact with the field. So that's one way that I can support some people here. Another way is if you're interested in learning what's happening to your system. I can do a healing session or I can do a psychic reading, which basically reads your entire system and tells you where you are in this time and space. I also I do supervision for those therapists that need a little bit of support and a little bit of, I don't know if I'm doing this right. Like, for example, Annie, I don't know how I'm dealing with this, what I should do, sort of that would be supervision. That would be a great thing to focus on. And what else? I run workshops. I'm running this. I'm thinking of running a 6-week course for everybody that will focus on the human body and all the layers. And so if you're interested in that, ping me a message and say yes. And that would be very helpful. Can't read that because I haven't got my glasses.
I just said we both had the medical intuitive healing sessions that you offer several times over, and they
Yes.
were very helpful. Suzanne and I both.
Good. Yeah, you have, and it's been an absolute pleasure working with you and Suzanne.
I highly recommend. I highly recommend Margarita. And I just experienced what you were talking with right at the end there. The last person you talked with when you invited me into your space. I was laying on the bed, which was really good instead of sitting in the chair, which I'd been in the other session. And I was so out of my body. You were whatever you were doing with me, and I had to go to the bathroom. So I said, I knew I had to go, but I didn't want to ruin this amazing experience. You said, go ahead and go. Well, when I got up off the bed, I was so out of my body. I was stumbling over. I thought, whoa, I was hoping I could find the toilet. And when I got back in, I said, I am out of it. And you invited me to invite my atoms back into my body. And then I came back together, and it was just like, I just experienced this, last session that you were talking about. And I was glad you reminded me to invite my atoms back into my body. And then I visualized them all my atoms coming back in. And I felt so much better when they were back inside of me.
Well, it's a lovely way of, and you don't realize in a day to day, whether you're working in this or not, if everybody actually invited their atoms back in, we'd be a lot more centered and a lot calmer.
And I use that to help me with this fascia thing I'm going through. When I'm taking that nice hot warm shower, and I visualize how I'm grounding myself down through the root, through my legs, actually down to the center of Mother Earth. But I also invite my atoms when I'm all done to come back in case they went out. I don't know. I've learned a lot of things from you. I don't remember them all. So sometimes I'm in the shower, but those showers so help me, I think, rinse off what happened in the day or whatever. I don't know. I just learned a lot of wonderful little techniques from you. So thanks.
I'm delighted. I'm really pleased. Thank
I
you.
I see Renee asked, do you work with helping people who begin to spontaneously channel?
Yes, I do. I do because I've been there. I started spontaneously channeling during COVID, and it was taking over my life because I literally had to walk around my whole day with a book because it was just this constant stream. So yes, I do, Rennie. It'd be lovely to connect and see how I can support you if that's something that you need help with.
I'm also autistic. I'm sitting here in my neurodiversity community center. So these spontaneous abilities and gifts have almost taken over here. And there are many, many people that come to this space that have the same abilities. And so I'm very much looking for some guidance. I'm having to really rein things in for me to continue to operate this center. So I'm happy I found you. I'll be in touch.
Please do, because I know exactly what you're talking about. And it is, when you're trying to live life and function, it's quite overwhelming because it's like it won't leave you alone until you get it out.
And it feels important. The messages are important. I'm just not quite sure what to do with them. I just need a little help, I think.
Reach out. That would be lovely. Lovely.
Thank you. Thank you for today. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Yes.
Like one last question, maybe from Courtney. Or you?
Well, my client just showed up, so I have to jump, but I will email you on the side.
Well, if you want to say the question, because I'm recording this and then the recording will come out. So,
Okay, so I'm curious for you to define channeling versus telepathy. Not to put you on the spot.
okay.
Okay, I gotta go.
That's a very interesting and challenging question. And I think telepathy is, in my opinion, is when you're actually connecting to the person directly, as in you have somebody who you want to connect to and they are talking to you and you're getting that information from them. Whereas channeling, the messages that are coming through are coming either from guides or from, it could be telepathic people, it could be non-verbal autistic people, but it's not a conscious thing. It's not you connecting consciously to that person to do telepathy. So I think it's kind of the same resonance, but not quite the same vibration, if that makes sense. So I'm hoping
How about channeling versus mediumship?
for me, when I've channeled, I feel it in a different part of my brain. When I hear spirit, I hear it on my left. When I channel, I hear it on my right. So it feels as if it's a different, and it feels different. It's a different, and for me, when I hear spirits, I usually get visuals or I get smell. But that's me. As I say, different people work on it differently. I'm not a medium, and I need to clarify that. I only work with spirit when I'm working with a patient and there is some relationship that needs to be said, or there's something that needs to be spoken about or healed. Sort of, I don't randomly connect to spirit. That's not my forte. But when I do, that's how I feel the difference, is that I smell them first and then I hear them, or I see them and then hear them, and then they won't let me work until I say what I need to say. Whereas on the right side is a very different sensation. think that was lovely. That was really lovely. Thank you, everybody, for allowing me to spurge all my information. And Kevin, you've been an absolute angel. Thank you so much for just holding space for me, because I was very overwhelmed yesterday. So
It's really a pleasure.
thank you, everybody, for coming. I will be putting this online. It will be on my YouTube channel, and I will then post it on different places. So by all means, if you want to share, If you have any questions, just ping me a few messages. All right. Thank you very much. Lovely to see all your lovely faces.